Welcome to Real Talk Asia, ANREV's new real estate podcast series built by the industry for the industry. We are dedicated to the real, incisive conversations shaping real estate investment across the Asia-Pacific region. I'm Charlie Hasse, Chief Executive of ANREV, and it's my great pleasure to introduce this inaugural episode. We're delighted to have Bernie Devine as our host for the first two episodes of Real Talk Asia. Bernie leads Yardi's business across Asia Pacific and brings sharp commercial instincts, a front row view of how technology is reshaping our industry, and the kind of curiosity that makes even 5 decades of experience feel like it's just getting started. And that 5 decades belongs to today's guest, Nick Brooke, quite simply one of the most remarkable figures in Asian real estate. A chartered surveyor who arrived in Hong Kong with little more than a mandate and a vision, Nick went on to help shape Taikoo Shing, the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park, and decades of policy that still define the city today. He has seen more cycles, built more skylines, and advised more governments than most of us could manage in 3 lifetimes. So let's get into it.
Hi everyone. I'm Bernie Devine. I help lead Yardi's business in APAC. We help investors, owners and managers improve operations and deliver better results with their real estate investments. Like some of you, I started in real estate before technology became part of every deal, before AI really took over how we start to do things. I've seen firsthand how quickly our industry can evolve. I've lived in Australia, US, UK, Dubai, Singapore and Hong Kong. And I've been reflecting on my experience and thinking that there are some great leaders in our industry whose experience and views I really wanted to capture. Today I'd like to get that started talking to one of the people who I first met when I came to Hong Kong in 2012. And for me has been someone really who's been a shining light in the industry and doing a lot of things that have shown real insight and an understanding of where the industry is headed. So today we're speaking with Nick Brooke, 50 years in real estate. Nick is chairman of Professional Property Services Group here in Hong Kong, former president of the Institute of Charter Surveyors, and has served on key Hong Kong planning and housing boards. He helped shape policy, advise government and guide developments for decades, and was at the centre of the decision to foster innovation and technology in Hong Kong and led the development of the Hong Kong Science Park at Sha Tin. He's joined to share not just history but practical lessons, how we stay relevant, how to think globally, and how to keep your curiosity alive in a changing industry. Nick, let's start with the early days.
Good morning to you. Good morning.
Good morning. Let's start with the early days. Let's follow this journey of you coming from the UK to South America, to Dubai, and ultimately to Hong Kong. Really an interesting journey. So, perhaps if you can tell us a little bit about some of that.
Be pleased to, because it's been a fascinating journey, as you've suggested. Yes, started life in South America. Well, born in UK, but when I was a baby, my father was offered a job in Brazil by ICI, and we headed off to South America. 3 weeks on a cargo ship to get there in different times. And I stayed there till I was 14. So my early language was Portuguese. And in fact, when I went back to UK, I had to almost relearn English, but that's another story. So 14 years in South America. I mean, in a way that opened my eyes to the wider world, if you like, although I was obviously just a child and a teenager then. Back to UK. settled in Yorkshire, and this is when I became interested in the built environment and the real estate industry, if you like, because we settled in a village, but in a way the village was run almost like a small town, a small city. We had a council and we had a village hall and we had some heritage to look after, etc. So in its way, it was a microcosm of a small city. And I became very involved and interested in how the place was being run and how it was being cared for and what were the priorities in terms of the buildings and things, and got very interested in real estate. So decided I wanted, to become to go to London and become a chartered surveyor. So I studied. Can you believe it? Farm business management, and got a degree in farm business management because my background at that stage is obviously rural. Qualified as an agricultural surveyor, and went off and managed farms and estates for the Crown and the Church in my early first job, if you like, post university. So that was a start. I think there I became obviously very involved with the environment at large, if you like, and realized the importance of the environment at large. And the land in itself is a scarce resource, if you like, and we need to treat land, if you like, a little more carefully than we do. So became very involved with the environment, land use, farming, and then by chance I went down to London, and I was there to deliver my monthly report, and I walked into head office, and there was a gentleman there in a white gown, an Arab turned up from Dubai. In those days, Arabs were scarce in London, if you like, and yes. The poor receptionist was absolutely terrified. So I thought I'd better step in and help her. So I said, "Sir, can I help you?" And he turned out to be the son of the ruler of Dubai.
Nick, before we go to Dubai,
sure.
Let's focus a little bit on your experience in the UK in your early years in real estate. So, what do you think are the key things you learnt from that experience?
Well, I think, first of all, qualifying as a chartered surveyor, I think to me, being a professional, I think is key to moving things forward. So, being a chartered surveyor is about standards, it's about ethics, it's about reputation, doing things in a professional way, if you like. So that was drilled into me, if you like, at an early stage, and became the platform for what I did. But also, I think working with people who live on the land and live from the land, if you like. They're the drivers and the ethics and the importance of quality of life, if you like. Very important, even at a rural level, if you like. So that was the mirror, if you like, to the way forward and the platform that took me forward.
Okay. And then a trip to London.
To London, meet the son of Dubai, stick up your hand and say, "Can I help you, sir?" And he said, "Yes, you can help me. I want to buy a house in London." Well, being a keen young surveyor, I said, "Well, I'm sure we can help you, sir." And we did. We bought him a house in London. And then he said, "Well, by the way, Dad sent me to London because we want to start investing in London." The oil money was beginning to flow in the Gulf, and Dubai had its share. And they very sensibly have decided to put part of it into investment offshore. So we helped him buy a hotel and a couple of office buildings. And then after a while, I think Dad got to hear what the son was up to, if you like. And he said, "You better come back to Dubai. And by the way, I gather this chap Brooke is helping you spend my money. So you better bring him back with you." So that was my baptism to Dubai. So literally seize the opportunity. And again, you'll hear this perhaps during our chat. I think the world is a lot of, particularly when you're a young person, is about seizing that opportunity. So I got on the ruler's plane and went to Dubai, packed my bag, and off I went. And spent 9 years.
So instead of a cargo ship, you ended up on a proper plane. So that's a good change. And like yourself, I spent 6.5 years in Dubai. Obviously, much later. It was 2006 when I went there, and a lot of things had already changed, and obviously you'd moved on. But it's interesting to note. So the person you were working with, the son of the ruler, is now the ruler of Dubai.
No, unfortunately, this particular son, I'm afraid, passed away.
Okay.
His brother is
Yes.
the ruler. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you was one of the other
Sheikh
brothers.
Mohammed is
Sheikh Mohammed. Okay. All right. That makes sense. And I think continued development and investment. I spent quite a bit of time in Dubai, as I said, and there were, I guess, the new Dubai. A couple of these images here.
Yes,
the new Dubai.
It really was an experiment in many ways, a pioneering initiative. Because when I arrived there, can you believe it? The tallest building was 4 stories.
Yes, I can believe it. I saw photos.
And there was only a handful of expatriates, if you like, in specialist areas such as real estate and investment. And our job was to help the country, to help the nation, if you like, invest those monies, the oil monies, sensibly. So we spent, obviously, some of it was invested in country, in beginning to build infrastructure, which you see today. But then, sensibly, the ruler decided that some of it needed to be parked for perpetuity, if you like, and that was put into real estate buildings around the world. So part of my job was to help them develop the infrastructure for the new city, but part of it was to help them invest, and we invested in, obviously, in UK, in the US, and Europe at that time. Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, because the photo on the top right here, if I've got it right, that location there is about where the first 10-story building was built in Dubai. Was on the side of Sheikh Zayed Road, in about that location. And the interesting thing for me, Nick, is that many years later, when I went there, it was still about helping them to build out the infrastructure of the city. And in fact, the brief I had when I got there was to create the digital infrastructure for 3 cities of 1 million people. Now, that project in some respects is still in progress, but it is in progress. They've never stopped with continuing to develop and innovate and try new and different things and see what does and doesn't work, which for me, I know, and perhaps your insight, but for me, one of the things about Dubai was the fact that you could go and try something, and if it failed, that was okay, because it was all about learning how to do things better. Was that sort of your experience there?
Yeah, and I mean, in a way, particularly the ruling family, I mean, they were amazing. I mean, not long out of the desert, if you like, but willing to recognize that there was a big world out there. I mean, one of the things that I was involved in was sending all the children offshore for education. The ruler recognized that it was going to be a big world and they needed to understand the wider world. So one of the first things that he did was to send them offshore, educate them and train them offshore. So when they came back, they could contribute.
Yes, absolutely.
Very savvy, despite the fact, as I say, not long out from the desert.
No, they weren't. I mean, I have some good friends there who were locals who explained to me in 45-degree heat in the middle of summer one time that air conditioning only really came to the expensive houses in Dubai in about 1982. So yeah, it was before that they used wind towers. So a lot of evolution in that market. But then you managed to make the switch to Hong Kong. What encouraged you to go from Dubai to Hong Kong?
Well, I did Dubai, and then I also did Bahrain and Abu Dhabi because I was, if you like, moved around a little like a football player, helping them.
Yes.
But the attraction of Dubai, Hong Kong, was that Swire asked me to come. It was the challenge of Taikoo, the dry dock, this redundant area on the waterfront, which cried out, if you like, for an innovative planning solution in terms of creating something rather special for the city.
So what if I look back at that time, and for me, I first dropped into Hong Kong in 1986, and I remember looking at different parts of the city that had bays full of sampans and people still living on the water. You came from, as you said, Dubai, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, which were all very much emerging oil economies wanting to invest, to Hong Kong, which was a very, very different environment. So what helped you make that transition? What were the things that you think were important in sort of moving geography wise, culturally, etc.?
Well, I think, as you've very well identified, immediately recognizing those differences, if you like, and working with those differences. I mean, as you say, I mean, very volatile market, trading mentality. I mean, everything was being built for sale, if you like. People didn't even talk about investment in Hong Kong in those days. It was all about selling on and making a capital gain, if you like. So it was a very different mentality. But you had a city that was on the move. You had an administration that was willing to support change. And there was an opportunity, as I said, on the waterfront to create something special. So we set about drawing up this master plan for Taikoo. Took us a couple of years to create the master plan and get it endorsed by the Swire family. But all along, the objective was to create something for the city at large, if you like. We talked about a city within a city. We talked about quality of life. We talked about creating something that people could aspire to own. There wasn't that motivation, if you like, when I arrived. Anyway, the aspiration was to buy something and sell it on at a profit. But I think through Taikoo, we created this sense of ownership, sense of belonging, and by creating an integrated environment, if you like, not just high rise, but all the things that need to support an urban community, we changed, I think, mentality, and we changed attitude to real estate.
Yep. Okay. Interesting. I think, part of that change of mentality is really interesting. And I think along the way, I don't want to forget the fact that you've had a very important life partner through this process and business partner through this process. And I know Maggie can't be here today, but what was your sense of how Maggie saw all of that transition?
Well, Maggie is very focused on diversity in terms of a city mix and in terms of quality of life. So her mission when she arrived and ever since has been to maintain that diversity across Hong Kong. I mean, a lot of the heritage buildings have been under challenge, as you know, a lot, particularly in the early days, just bulldozed and went. So her battle has been to try and maintain a quality, improve the quality of life that we have already. I mean, as you know, she battled over the harbour when government wanted to continue to reclaim in the central area. She battled with Christine Lowe and others to put a stop to reclamation, and focus on getting the harbour to the people, water to the people, people to the water, and also creating obviously an experience for the population at large. So that's been her ethos, I think. Blue House she was involved in Wan Chai, which got a UNESCO award, and then also heavily involved with the Central Police Station, which has proved to be a major conversion and a major attraction.
Yeah. What was sort of, in terms of your experience?
Sorry, just on that,
Sure.
I think what her driver is what she describes as the collective memory. And again, we're going to be talking, I think, later about young people, but it's interesting. That is a high priority with young people in the built environment sector. So that I think is very encouraging.
Yes, I would agree. So if I go back to those early years, what were the things that you learnt out of dealing with the Swire family, with, I guess, also with the planning board, everyone else involved in that project? What were the things that really came out of that you think helped you to understand where to go next and what to do next?
Well, I think ability to move at speed. I think one of the things, the Gulf moved at speed, obviously, but certainly when I arrived in Hong Kong, things were on the move and on the move at a very rapid rate. So, in a way, the mood was right, if you like, to change what I describe as a blueprint into a reality.
Yes.
And that's really what motivated us and drivers. The administration was on side, if you like. They realised that there was a need to improve the standard of housing and urban development in Hong Kong. I think we learned that you can, with the right team and the right determination, deliver at speed in Hong Kong. I mean, the pace of development, I know we get frustrated at times in Hong Kong, but if you compare the pace of development in Hong Kong, even today, with other major cities, we do things at a fairly rapid rate, quite frankly, although we tend to complain that it's not quickly enough, if you like. Agility and adaptation. I mean, again, young people, I do find recognize the need for agility today, willing to move and operate under pressure. And I think also recognizing that through schemes like Taikoo, you're not just contributing, if you like, to the Swire bottom line, you are contributing to the city at large, and you're setting standards for others to try and achieve.
Yeah, you mentioned agility, and I think one of the things for this industry is really around the fact that it moves through cycles, the economic cycles, etc. Really drive a lot of what happens in the industry. And what I think I've seen more recently is a switch to, is an environment where young professionals tend to switch roles fairly quickly. What's your view on how to build a long-term reputation in the industry?
Well, I think moving very rapidly or moving frequently, in a way, is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it used to be, if you like, if you move too often, then people used to get a bit nervous. But I think today, in order to gain a raft of experience, if you like, I think you have to move, you have to shift. I think it's about maintaining your principles, if you like. I think you have to set certain principles in terms of the way you conduct yourself, the way what you do, how you do it, and not deviate from that, even though you may move from job to job. I think having certain basic principles and sticking to those gain you respect in the market. Certainly, it's been my ethos, if you like, that. There are certain things I will not do and certain ways I will not conduct business, if you like. But I think if you conduct yourself responsibly and professionally and move with the times, we live in a very rapidly changing world, as you and I know. So
yes.
constant. We talk about distance learning. I think it's constant learning now, if you like. I think you've got to make sure you keep in touch with what's happening as best you can, and that does mean that learning doesn't stop any time at all.
Yes. And then you moved on to, over time, getting involved with encouraging the establishment of sort of a stronger focus on science and technology. And this particular project, the Science and Technology Park in Sha Tin. Tell us about how that came about.
Well, it came about largely because just a number of us not decided, but we believed that Hong Kong had to diversify the menu, if you like, in terms of the traditional four pillars, and discussion with the chief executive then, C.H. Tung, and he agreed that we needed to create a platform, if you like, which would encourage innovation and technology in Hong Kong. So we would create the hard and some of the soft infrastructure that was needed, if you like, to foster innovation and technology in Hong Kong. Up until then, to be honest, there'd been no encouragement to anyone who was in that area. And so I was actually given the remit to go on, reclaim the land at Sha Tin and essentially build the park. We built it in 3 phases. We learned as we went. Initially, there was a lot of reservation, a lot of pushback in Hong Kong. Is this really where we want to be heading? Should we be doing this? Eventually, we persuaded people that innovation technology, if you like, were fundamental to the future, and you needed the soft and the hard infrastructure. And we built the park. And now, of course, it is a very successful demonstration, if you like, of creating an ecosystem which helps people involved in innovation technology right through the process, from initial ideas through to delivery.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It is. I would agree. It's become really a centre of an ecosystem that
They've
enables.
trouble now. It's not really big, as we're seeing and as we're having
Yeah.
to tackle with the metropolis. Basically, we need much more of that type of space.
Yes, yes, I would agree. I think this was a great start, and for a period it did its job, and it continues to do so. But in the broader context now of integrating in the GBA and building that more larger scale tech and innovation ecosystem, we need a lot more. And I guess that's really the focus of the Northern Metropolis now. So, Nick, so through all of this, what do you think? Was there ever a time you took a big setback that you sort of turned into growth that allowed you to refocus, rethink, and move forward again?
Well, we did after a while. I mean, our client, driven largely by our clients and others who wanted our help. We spread the net, if you like, outside Hong Kong, and we developed a large regional business, essentially providing advice to cities and to major companies around the region. I think lesson learned there was, and I wouldn't suggest we were arrogant, but you have to understand that things are different in each of the markets, if you like. You have to respect the customs, you have to respect the rules and regulations. Yes, you may want to help them refine and introduce change, if you like, but you have to do it in the context of that particular city or that particular nation. So I think we learned as we went, and we became much more sensitive, if you like, and savvy to local conditions and the need for a local partner in virtually every case, if you like. You can't do it on your own. So it was a bit of a learning curve, if you like, as against a mistake. But eventually, I mean, it paid dividends, because we had, I think, 17 offices around the region at one stage, all providing advice and help on what to do.
Yep. Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think that's part of our focus also has always been around building a local team that understands the local market. I think that's one of the core beliefs in our growth as well, to make sure that you're in tune with and understand the local market. I think that, I'd agree, that's very important. So I think the next thing I'd like to look at, and maybe just coming back to Maggie for a bit, but what would Maggie describe as the things that help make a city more livable?
Well, back to, I think, my point earlier about diversity, and diversity of experience, diversity of facilities, diversity of product. So I think diversity would be high on our agenda. A sense of place, creating something special from a community perspective. We're getting better at it, if you like, with our new projects, and government also with its projects. But we've been a bit slow, if you like, on creating that sense of place. We weave the green in now wherever we can. We weave the landscaping in. We create pockets of interest and excitement, much better than we used to. But we still, I think, got some way to go. I think, if we talk about density, which we may do later, then density in itself, I don't think is a problem, if you like. In fact, I think density creates synergies and chemistries for young people to work and live together. But if you have density, then you do need to support it with all these additional facilities. And as we do in Hong Kong, you need a public transport system which can move people in and out of these areas very conveniently. So I think walking and public transport, walking within the districts, if you like, again, connectivity, synergy, chemistry, but then the ability to come and go at convenience, I think, is crucial. I mean, one of our success stories is clearly the MTR.
Yes, yes, I would agree. I think one of the real pluses of the experience for Hong Kong is that density. I think
Well, we
it's
are
one
one of the
of
most dense cities in the world, aren't we? So
yes,
we've but we're also one of the most livable cities. So I think we have
exactly.
cracked it. We have cracked it in that sense. Yes, yes.
Yes, I agree. I think just that density and that it really brings a different feel to the city and creates an atmosphere that many people find quite exciting, quite intriguing. And then comparing that to the fact that, as you say, despite that density, we still manage to make it a city where people can get around and do what they need to do very, very, very efficiently and very effectively. I think the MTR and the integration of the MTR with buses and with the trams and everything else has worked out really well for the city.
And
I can't imagine.
I think also we have the biggest back garden in the world. I mean, I think
Yes,
the fact that 40% of our land area is country park. I mean, what other city can emulate that? I mean, I think that again is that escape valve, if you like, is essential if you're going to have density. But we have it, and we're
yes,
very lucky, very lucky.
yes, and we're very lucky that it's actually close, very close
Yes,
by to where
immediately
most people
adjacent.
live.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, which creates things differently. So I think moving on from there, Nick, the next thing I sort of saw that in sort of your background, what I think was really of interest and quite important was your involvement in not just in cities but going beyond that and looking at a couple of things in terms of data for cities, looking at, and I wanted to bring up this slide, which is from South China Morning Post, which sort of highlights the Greater Bay Area from 1993 to 2013, and the massive growth that this area has seen, and the transition or transformation more in terms of bringing technology and technology industries into the region, and then really using that as a platform to look at city data and to identify better ways of doing things. How do you see, that whole transformation, the whole sort of using data to manage cities better? What have you learned from that? What do you think the future holds in that space?
Well, as you probably know, I'm involved with a satellite initiative because we and a number of people I'm involved with believe that ultimately, I think you can manage a city real time from a satellite and provide the data and enable the planners and the people who run cities, if you like, to react rather more speedily to things, if you like, and to monitor, if you like, day-to-day occurrences in the city. So you can detect problems such as flooding or illegal construction, and adopt, if you like, a proactive approach to management rather than a reactive one. I mean, I see the ability that the data from a satellite creates almost to create an MRI image, if you like, of a city, which you can visit on a regular basis to see what's happening and treat the patient accordingly, if you like. But it's almost like an MRI approach, and that ability, if you like, to do things immediately and to plan ahead, to create a resilience agenda, if you like. All our cities are struggling, if you like, with the need to plan for the future and plan for future eventualities. Well, the sort of tool that the data from satellites could provide, I think, would enable you to do that much more easily than you are at the moment. So I think going to potentially, I mean, it's early days yet, but if we can create a real-time model that's planners and people involved with cities can use, I think it's the way forward for sure.
Okay. How do you think the people in real estate in Hong Kong can benefit from, can take advantage of, can use the Greater Bay Initiative and sort of a digital transformation to their benefit? What do you think are the things that, you know, in the near-term future are going to make a difference?
Well, I think in a way we've got to get our heads around the GBA. I'm not sure we have yet as a city.
Yes.
There's been a certain amount of pushback, if you like, about getting too close, if you like. But I mean, the reality is that if you look at the GBA and the 11 cities and the 70 million people, it's a huge opportunity, not just from a real estate perspective, but a built environment perspective, but from the city at large. So I think there is the opportunity there. I think we need to get to grips with it. From a real estate perspective, a property perspective, I think, you know, we should be using Hong Kong, if you almost like a living laboratory, if you like, to show what can be achieved at a pilot level, and then extending those pilots into the Shenzhen and Guangzhou obviously are way down the track, but there are 7 other cities which, if you like, are following, where I think we could contribute to their future by using Hong Kong as the pilot. Pilots on data, show them how data can be used to manage their buildings, to track what happens within those buildings. I mean, to me, experience is the key, and experience is about what happens within buildings, and that's where I think data can come into play in a major way. Comings and goings in those buildings, temperature control, management, repairs, all these things, data can help and facilitate to a major degree. And I think we could develop models here, given, as we talked about, density and all the rest, we could develop models here which could be extended to help the development of the GBA. And that turns the reservation that I mentioned earlier into a positive, I think.
Yes, I would agree. I think that's important. And I would also agree that there's a lot more work to be done to really understand how Hong Kong can, really best take advantage of the GBA initiative and continue to build on its strengths. When I look at what we've done, we've certainly got a very strong planning and development organisation. We've got, as you said, we can get things done relatively quickly, and we've got a strong financial base to leverage. And I think part of the reason why we were included in this whole initiative was that strong financial base, and bringing that understanding of delivering returns effectively to the entire region, I think, is a key part of it. So yeah, I would agree. I think it's a great initiative. I think it's a great way for the region to really continue to grow and build on the strengths of each of the constituent cities.
And it's the size of many nations, size of many large nations. So yes. And in terms of population and area, it really is a major opportunity.
It is, I think, and I guess that sort of brings me back to a couple of key things. One is just thinking about the history and what you've done over that time. If you were 30 again, what would you think about do differently? Do you think? What do you think was the, knowing what you know now? If you knew that back then, what would you do differently? And let me change that around a little.
There were two of me.
What would you do? If you were 30 now? If you were really looking for the same sort of opportunity, where would you go now?
All right. Well, that's a slightly different question.
Yes.
Let's deal with the second question first. I think I still think frontier markets are exciting, even despite my age, if you like, and not being as young as I was. But I still find it, what I call frontier markets exciting.
Yes.
We went into Vietnam as a frontier market, etc. It passed, but that's emerged now, and that's on. I'm already even involved today in a couple of what I call frontier markets. Uzbekistan, There are 9 stands, as you probably know. Well, we've done our homework, and we think Uzbekistan is the most promising, if you like, and the most receptive to change, if you like. Socialist economy, waking up to the outside world, willing to listen, willing to at least experiment. So Uzbekistan is somewhere I would suggest young people might want to look at, or look at the stands and then decide which one. And then, there are other things which I find exciting in terms of emerging markets. I'm involved in, can you believe it, Papua New Guinea.
Yes.
I wear an APEC hat, and they want to adopt international valuation standards because they want to be able to talk to the world on a common platform. And they're very rich in minerals and resources. And they want to be able to value those and to have a dialogue with international investors about the value of those resources. Now, they have, to be honest, there's nothing there by way of fabric or framework in terms of standards at the moment, but they realise and recognise that there's a need to have those standards. So
yes,
you can find opportunities like that, which I think are very exciting.
Yep. So to rephrase the first question yet again, I'd say thinking about a younger person today, as you said yourself at 30, but with a view of what's needed for the next 30 years, what things would you encourage people to focus on in terms of skills and abilities for the future?
Well, I think, first of all, and this I'm sure will please you, digital literacy. I don't think everybody needs to be a software engineer, but I think you do need to understand data analytics, visualization, even a bit of AI. It's what I call the new literacy, if you like, but I think the ability to leverage that new literacy, I think, is going to be very important. Now, a lot of them obviously are up to speed, but I think those who aren't need to be up to speed, but it's also keeping up to speed, because as you will tell me, I'm sure the world of change in that area is very significant. So that digital literacy is one. I think mindset and adaptability is another. The willingness to, well, they know it's a world of change, but you have to move with that change, and you have to be receptive to that change. I don't know about you, but I can't see 5 years ahead, never mind 10 years ahead. So I think being able to visualize what might happen and plan for that, what might happen. Lots of new roles, of course, I think will be created in the future. I think storytelling, or envisioning, if you like, I think that ability to help people understand how the world is going to change and be able to sell a vision, I think that's an important skill. Many of us are not very good at it, but I think trying to explain to people how things are changing and what's going to happen, I think, and do it in a way that people can understand, or at least relate to, I think it's going to be very important. And I think also just a level of curiosity. I would hope that every successful, well, I'm sure it's true. If you're to be successful, you need to be curious. You need to be probing, and you need to be experimenting, I think. So I think that would be my list of things I'd like to see when I'm talking to a young person about the future.
Okay. That's fantastic. I think one of the things I would say and it's a really interesting insight, curiosity, because I think our organisation has always, for 40 years, had a focus on curiosity is one of the keys to success. And certainly from my own philosophy as well, it's always been that ask lots of questions, see where, and don't just stop at one question on a topic, really delve deeper and ask 2 or 3 questions to really get to the root cause of what people are really thinking about. Okay,
can I just give you one other point? I do a lot of mentoring, and one of the points I try and make to my young mentees is that I think there are 4 characteristics or 4 things I'd expect of them going forward, and it's the 4 Ps, if I may put it that way. They're going to have to be patient. They're going to have to persevere. Above all, they'll need passion. And again, passion is perhaps something that we should be talking about today, because without that passion, you're not going to succeed in the way that you want to, I don't think. And then finally, it's people. So those are the 4 Ps I think that I suggest to my young mentees they have in mind as they take their career forward.
Yes, yes. Let's talk about passion for a minute. Some people say you should figure out how to make money out of your passion, and that means that, you know, sort of every day you work won't feel like work. I'm sort of more of a view that, you know, you figure out something you enjoy doing, and if you really throw yourself into it and get passionate about it, it becomes something that you can really excel at and enjoy doing. But it may not necessarily be, you know, the hobby that you're passionate about. It's more a profession that is something that you can get passionate about. What's your view on passion, being passionate about your work?
I think it's essential because, you know, there's inevitably always an element of frustration, I think, involved in what we're trying to do. Property inevitably tends to be a long-term play. Dealing with government certainly is often a long-term dialogue. So to keep you motivated, focused, if you like, I think passion is absolutely essential. And it's passion in the widest sense. I think it's passion for the built environment. Yes, you'll have your own sector, your own specialisation, but I think passion for the built environment, and I think essentially a passion for Hong Kong too.
Yes, yes, I would agree. Is there, you know, any other things that we haven't talked about that you think we should be covering today?
Well, one thing that I think is important is how young people regard government and how young people deal with government. I find that there are quite a lot of reservations about getting involved with government. Well, to me, government is all about working with government as a partner, if you like. I mean, you can't deliver what we're talking about and what we're hoping to achieve, if you like, unless you regard government as a partner. So you have to, I think, regard them as that partner. I think also you've got to understand what motivates them and drives them. So understanding government policies, why they're doing what they're trying to do. They wear very different spectacles, and we often don't understand that. They have a role which is to keep some order and some order in the situation, into life, if you like, in Hong Kong, and create policies which support what they're trying to do. But they don't relate, if I like, and they get very cross to me when I say this, but they don't relate, I often find, to the real world. So the work of the property professional, if you like, is to help them understand what's happening in the real world, share with them practical experience, if you like, and partner with them to deliver a combined model, I think, a combined solution in terms of the way forward. So I think there's a role for young people to help government, to assist government, to work with them, and regard them as a partner, as against, if you like, someone who is getting in the way and being obstructive.
Yeah, agreed. I think I would also say my experience is it's better to work with them and see if you can influence direction and provide some insights that they may perhaps not have, that helps them better understand how to take things forward. Okay. I'd like to sort of just cover off a couple of other things that a couple other areas, or quick, so just a couple of quick questions on a few things that I thought would be interesting for today. What's one building in Hong Kong that inspires you? Now, I know you've got a lot of buildings you like, so you're going to probably end up offending someone here, but what's one building that inspires you?
My candidate would be the Hong Kong Bank building. I think it set the scene and set the standard for what's happened in Central since, and also in its way it was very innovative from a design and operational perspective. It was
the HSBC building, right?
I think it was way ahead of its time, and it's done it, and it's done us proud, I think.
I think so too, and if I remember rightly, I think it was the first building to ever cost $1 billion to build.
Right.
US. So yeah, quite an innovative building, and the atrium and the mirror and everything else really does create a unique experience. I think it would pay anyone to go and take a visit at that building and be inside it if they haven't ever done that. What about one city somewhere in the world that young professionals should have a look at, should study?
Well, I think London would be my prime candidate because I think it ticks most of the boxes, if you like, from a density and a livability and an environment perspective. It's got history, it's got tradition. So I think London would be top of the list. But what I try and encourage people to do, young people to do, is to go and look at cities which are run completely differently, if you like, to the traditional way. So look out and find cities, sometimes in Eastern Europe, sometimes in South America, which are run and operated in a completely different way. The rules are very different, if you like, yet they succeed. So I think it's worth looking out a couple of cities as part of your ongoing training and learning, if you like, that operate differently yet are successful.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I lived in a couple of cities in Australia, Sydney and Canberra. I lived in Mumbai. I lived in Hong Kong. I've lived in Singapore, and I've lived in Dubai, and all of those cities taught me very different things because they're run very, very differently. So pretty interesting stuff, and a brief period in the US as well that also created another view of what works and what doesn't. What do you think is the best career advice you ever received?
Basically, think very carefully about every decision you make, and every decision, not every decision, but every certainly piece of advice you give should be basically pushing the envelope. I think the actual words I was given was beware the comfort zone. So whenever you make a statement or whenever you advise someone to do something, push the envelope, if you like, a little in terms of that advice and decision. Don't just give him the standard answer, if you like, but push the envelope. Beware the comfort zone, I think would be my statement. Yeah.
Okay. This is interesting. One word or a short phrase that sums up Hong Kong today for you.
I think resilient. Very, very resilient.
I would say over the last 8 to 10 years, I would agree. Resilient, absolutely. And I think
very resilient and about to embark on a new chapter. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Reinventing itself yet again.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you think in terms of the future in general? We haven't really talked much about AI. We've talked about data, but what do you think about how AI is starting to change things and what that means for where we're headed to, and what's your view on the real estate industry in adopting that stuff?
Well, I think it's going to be a major influence, I think, on the way forward. Now, how we manage it and how we control it, if you like, I think for debate. But as a research tool, if you like, as a tool that comes up with options, alternatives, and as an analytical tool, when it comes to digitization. I think it's going to, if we embrace it, I think it could raise the real estate profession, if you like, to a higher level. And particularly, the more traditional functions around quantity surveying and building surveying, which and property management, if you like, all of which have become viewed as somewhat of a chore, if you like. I think the contribution that they could make using AI, I think, would be very significant as we move forward.
Agreed. Okay, Nick, I want to thank you for sharing half a century of experience. I think it's amazing. And I think it's still very much lessons that are still relevant today. I think what you've talked about in terms of adaptability, curiosity, integrity, and ethics. I don't think those things ever go out of style, ever go out of fashion. I think they're really key to a successful career and a successful business. So inspiring. Thank you very much for your time today. And
well, thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the chance to perhaps set the stage for young people for the future.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Real Talk Asia, brought to you by ANREV, the Asian Association for Investors in Non-Listed Real Estate Vehicles. Conversations like today's are what this series was built for. Real perspectives from real leaders shaping the future of real estate investment across Asia Pacific. Subscribe, share, and remember, the best deals always begin with a conversation.